Don't you spend enough time waiting for patches, system updates, and even worse, title updates? On Lag Free, we won't waste your time, and we talk about the topics that you want to hear about in a decidedly different fashion. No scripts or forced sides here. Listen to Lag Free, recorded and released regularly on Intrepid Audio Productions.
Sort of break it down like this.
Oh, fantastic.
He is one of the biggest meatballs on Twitter.
I'm an idiot.
No, that's okay.
Nice to meet you. I'm Mike.
Could you please take back Tim Tebow?
Oh, awesome.
College football in touch.
I don't understand where these questions are coming from, Tom. That's about it for Manager's Corner. Go yourself and with your show coming up next on the Baltimore Oriole Baseball Network.
I made a note about college sports, and the note just says college sports in general.
Whammy!
Can't do it.
The changes that have happened in the Cub organization are multifold.
Boogie boogie.
Great stuff.
Welcome back to Chicago Sports Update here on Intrepid Audio Productions.
Just to all the listeners, thanks for listening.
And welcome back to Chicago Sports Update here on IAP Podcast. This is Matt. Just a really quick show for you this week. Unfortunately, we were unable to get Anthony Alex back on this week due to conflicts in the schedule. But as he will tell you, yes, the Crimson Tide beat up on Chattanooga. No real surprise there. Shut out even, so they get ready to play Auburn for the Iron Bowl. I would say absolutely this is must-watch football. You're going to see two really, really good teams, two top 5 teams, in fact, go at it. And it'll be really interesting to see. And winner of that, well, will certainly come out of the SEC West and play for the SEC Championship. And probably most likely the winner of that, yes, of course, is most likely going to go to the finale, the final BCS Championship. Wow. Hard to believe that, with next year going to a playoff schedule, a playoff format, top 4 teams then compete. So it will be really interesting. So I seriously doubt that game to disappoint in one way or another. I would fully expect it to be a good showing and a showcase of what college football is all about, especially in the SEC and how serious they take that. Moving over to our other guest, Patrick. He was unable to join us due to scheduling conflict, and that's okay. Family stuff always does come first, but he gives us his report. 2 field goals that the kicker, that Seabass, quote-unquote, the kicker missed, cost us the game. Let's see, still problems between the kicker and the holder. Mix-up in our secondary. The last play also cost us the game, so there's 2 opportunities for the game there. Let's see. They still need a lot of work, but it looks good for next year. He believes that Jennings will be the running back next year, and McFadden will be gone, expecting. So, with this sort of week, all you can hope for is that they get ready for Dallas on Thanksgiving. Should be it's a Heritage Series matchup there. They have to keep the pressure on Romo and keep running the ball to Jenkins. Will be two of his keys to success. Till next week, happy Thanksgiving, and as always, go Raiders. We'll take a quick break, and when we get back, I will be joined by Mike. Happy to have him back, so keep it right here on Chicago Sports Update here on IAP Podcasts. Hello, listeners. Once you're done catching up with everything Intrepid Audio Productions has to offer, check out some other great independent podcast shows like the Knights of the Video Game Table podcast. Jeremy, Patrick, and Frank do great work, and it's worth your time to check them out. They're part of the Nerdgasm Network, where you can find other cool shows, including the Super Budget Brothers, the Nerdgasm Network Video Game Podcast, and all other shows, which can be found at extraplay.info. Give them a listen, because good, honest work can be hard to find. Welcome back to Chicago Sports Update here on IAP Podcast. I'm joined by Mike. We're happy to have him in. Been a couple weeks, but and in that time, the Bulls unfortunately have gone from just mediocre to soon to be unwatchable. So,
Yeah, it was the best thing I read for about, because you know what, and people, I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter today, like, Bulls are still a playoff team, they're a good team. First of all, it's the Eastern Conference, and the Eastern Conference is for the most part, not so great. You know, there's a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference, but we're also talking about the NBA where it is not impossible to make the playoffs by any stretch of the imagination. So people are still calling them, they're still a playoff team, which, come on. Like, they're not a contender. A playoff team, like, no disrespect, but I think, like, the Milwaukee Bucks were a playoff team last year. It doesn't mean anything. Like, they're a playoff team. The other interesting thing is, last season, they were built to not have Rose on the team. They were built for a year, and if you whether you're happy about the way they were built last year or not, they were built to go through a season without him last year. This year, they were built to have him as, you know, an asset, and now it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone, and what's worse is that the team wasn't that... I don't believe the team was built that well, even for him to return. I've been very, very critical and seemingly like just shouting in the darkness. In, you know, when everyone else is kind of just like, oh yeah, they just need to get Derrick back, or you know, yeah, they're still an okay team, they're still a playoff team, and that's what's important. And it's kind of like, no, that's what's important. That is not what is important. What's important is getting to the championship, winning the championship, putting together a championship caliber or competitive team. And unfortunately, that's not what's been going on well, I'd say, heck, in the entire Derrick Rose era of the Bulls. And not to say that era is coming to a close, but this little window here of the early Tom Thibodeau years, it's gone. Forget it. It's
non-existent. Like, and you know, it's a really tough thing too, because, like, okay, if I'm a banker and I go to work one day, and when I'm walking into work, I totally get knocked in the head and, like, get a huge concussion, end up in a coma, whatever the case, right? You could come back and bounce back from, and maybe not a head injury, but I guess, like, what I'm saying is, like, how people are like, well, he'll be back. Yeah, he'll be back, but he'll be another year older, and especially the NBA. The NBA is not a young man's game. I'm not saying rush back, but I guess, like, of course, you know, you start looking around for, like, injury recovery times, and, you know, you don't know how bad the tear is and how much they had to repair and how much they had to remove and everything like that. I actually tore the same meniscus that Derrick Rose tore. Granted,
and you're not
granted, I'm not an athlete. I was not doing anything, so I guess it was a non-contact injury. Basically, I think the result of mine was the fact that growing up, I did nothing but play basketball on concrete and play lots and lots and lots of sports on concrete. So, like, when I got to a certain age, into my 30s, like, my left knee is pretty much shot. I wear a knee brace, like, every day, because if I don't, it gives out. There's something wrong with it. It's the start of something, but I just am not, you know, I'm not, like, going to be like, hey, can I get some knee surgery? But whatever, I tore it, and when I tore it, it hurt like all hell. And like I said, I didn't tear it in the same fashion that he did, but I tore it, and it was actually quite a decent-sized tear, because it had just been, I mean, for years my knee would pop on me, and it was my meniscus, because it was just, like, so weak and broken, and so it was totally damaged. So it needed a decent amount of repair, and it's not like you guys don't know this. I'm not a runner. I don't run. It's not by choice. It's pretty much the fact that I was diagnosed with MS, and that's part of the reasons why it just doesn't happen. But it didn't take me a year to get back to doing normal activities. So that's the thing I'm confused about. And I don't want to say anything like we shouldn't. and I get the whole we don't want to rush him back thing, but then I'm looking at stories where like, I mean, dude, Udonis Haslem played. This is Udonis Haslem played through torn meniscus, needs knee surgery.
no.
This is from June 29th of 2013. It says Heat forward Haslem played through much of the second half of Miami's season with a torn right meniscus, and basically he needed. It was previously undisclosed. So I mean, like, there's stuff like that. There's Westbrook did it in September, and he returned. I mean, there's guys that return in like 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Which like and yeah, the recovery time, and it was funny because I don't know if you're listening and you follow either one of us on Twitter and saw anything, but I was talking with Matt, and Matt tweeted like to the effect of, I think it was something to the effect of have fun, Bulls fans, the rest of your season is gone. And I simply asked what he thought the over-under on how long Derrick Rose would be out on, and his over-under was set at 10.5 weeks, which when I first thought of it, I'm like, okay, that's a little bit long, but then I kind of started looking around at, what doctors' diagnoses are, and I understand that you can start walking at a certain point, and, sports activities, doing things like that, and cutting at a NBA play level is a lot to come back to and a lot to get back to, but like guys are doing it. So that's the thing I don't understand.
And that 10.5 weeks, that was me operating off of day old information. Like I know that they released what or how much he was.
Yeah.
What the expected time was, but going off of it, I heard about the Westbrook comeback after about 9 weeks or so, 8 weeks, I think it was specifically, maybe even someone else 9, and I'm like, well, okay, he's really careful, he's extra careful, he's I don't want to say not mentally soft, but he's very cautious of his rehab and how he goes about it. So then I hear today, out for the rest of the season. I'm kind of like, oh, wow, yeah, I really set that bar low as far as the over-under. We're talking, 10 weeks from now. Yeah, we're talking into, let's see, we're talking into February, and okay, maybe it's a little bit, oh, no. Yeah, I guess that is February. Yeah. So, okay, maybe it's not impossible that he does, but just given everything, it's so, it's so disheartening. I feel very bad for Derrick Rose and having to go through and suffering this injury and what could really kind of just be considered a setback. I mean, you almost have to mentally condition yourself to call it a setback, because thinking about everything that he had to go through for an entire year worth of rehab from the ACL tear into this, it's like, oh gosh, okay. I mean, I heard an interview that I think it was Nick Shepkowski and Ben Finford did from 670 The Score on Saturday afternoon with Robbie Hummel from Purdue, who suffered 2 ACL tears in consecutive fashion. He was a former Purdue player. I
remember the name.
Yeah, and it was kind of, he talked about his his recovery, his process, how he went through rehab, and the mental side of it, and now he's playing in the NBA with the Timberwolves, and so I'm like, okay, good, very good for him. It's nice, but look at what Derrick Rose is. You have somebody that plays so hard and goes 100 redlines it every possession, and has a coach who redlines it every possession, and the only thing you can think of right now is, while I know that Chairman Reinsdorf came out and said that the Bulls team are going to make their fans proud this season. Well, do you really know what the only way to make your fans proud this year is? And it's just to tank everything. It's just go for the lottery, which you should have done last year.
Do you know what the definition of proud is?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I mean, man, it's so, and it's funny because all we talk about the positive in this. I'm with you, but then our buddy Chuck Swirsky today.
Oh no.
Which
Well,
I understand what he is, and he's a homer, and you know what? I appreciate him for everything he is because that's what he's getting paid to do. He's not getting paid. He's not getting paid to pick apart the organization. He's getting paid to to call the games for said organization.
Yeah, he's a company man,
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with that, whatsoever. But he. I'm looking through it today because it was, where is it? Wow.
You retweeted it. I
Here
saw.
it is. Okay, he tweeted, "Do not underestimate the tenacity and will of Rose. He will be back." Which is great to say, and it's uplifting and great. Yeah, he'll be back. Did we all think that he was never going to play again? So my
Retirement canceled.
my response to him was, "What happens then? Broken ankles?" Then I hashtagged it glass because now I'm just, it appears that Derrick Rose's knees are glass. Okay, so they break easily. So whatever was happening, I who knows what was going on? Was there when there was all the extensive rehab, was the appropriate rehab being done on the right side too? But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to do that. I'm not a trainer. I'm not a doctor. But it's just, and the world we live in now. I mean, I had 4 tabs on my computer screen open right now talking about torn meniscus tears, and then the one that I was reading about earlier, that is just insane. And this is not what I'm looking for in any regards. And I just got to read it for you because the way it kind of plays out is great. This is from, I believe this is from last year. Let me double check the date on the article. I don't see a date. Okay. Oh, wait, April. It was April 9th. It was 2013. Yeah, so it was this year. This is the article. This is how it starts off. This is how it starts, mind you. Meta World Peace had played possibly his last game with the Los Angeles Lakers when he suffered a torn meniscus in his left knee in late March. The team listed his recovery time at a minimum of 6 weeks, a date well past the regular season finale for a team that has no guarantee of making the playoffs. And there was no telling if he would be back after the offseason. Yet just 12 days after the surgery, World Peace was back in the lineup Tuesday, checking into a game against the Hornets. And basically, and then it says, to a partial, this is the best part, a partial standing ovation from the fans, and without a brace on his left knee. So that's the, I mean, if you want to talk about different time, that's the crazy extreme of.
They gave him a new knee. What they forgot to say was that they gave him an entirely new leg.
However that was accomplished, it was accomplished. I'm not gonna, whatever the case, the guy came back and played. He didn't re-injure it. It's not like he came back and played and, granted, he came back for the rest of the season in the playoffs, so there was some time off at some point, but is he still playing? I think he's pretty much still playing. I believe so, but I could be totally wrong. Yeah. But it's just like, okay, so there's that. There's the 12-day example, and then there's a bunch of other examples out there that are they're 6 to 8 weeks, 10 weeks. Stuff like that. I don't see any other full season anywhere, but I don't know. And yes, he is Ron Artest. I want to call him Ron Artest. Meta World Peace is currently wearing number 51 for the New York Knickerbockers.
There you go.
So,
It's I don't know what to say, and I think all this does. I guess I didn't say it before, but I guess this is kind of a new way to put it. But Derrick Rose playing at a high level and succeeding and being flashy and MVP caliber, all those sorts of great, adjectives and qualifiers, modifiers, however you want to put it, but it masks a lot of incompetence that the Bulls front office has had over the past. You could even go back to the fact since he's been drafted, which, okay, fine. You can. Everyone enjoys a good conspiracy theory about the NBA lottery, but the growth has not been there from the other players. The talent identification has not been there by the front office. The inability to acquire adequate players or good offensive players through free agency, through trades, is completely vacant. And okay, Carlos Boozer's been a good player for the Bulls. However, he was never at any point worth max money. Kyle Korver was never worth the money that they paid him. He was good for what he did, as just being a good shooter, perimeter shooter, because heck, that's pretty much what all white basketball players are good for these days. But and I say that with all joking aside, but it's with Rose out, it's really time, I think, for fans to take a real hard look at the front office and where the organization is going. I think they're completely content with selling a number 5 through 8 playoff team. I'm not saying. I guess I am kind of saying go back to oblivion from the Tim Floyd era, where you had 10-win teams, and you were like, oh my gosh, they got 10 wins. Oh wow, and you were amazed by that. But the organization needs to do something to rebuild themselves and to be better, to plan for the next year.
I got it. Rehire Krause, petition the league to allow high school players to come back in the league, get 2 high picks and spend them on 2 high school kids, and fill in with a bunch of other young guys and call them the Baby Bulls 2.0.
I don't have
I mean, at this point, should we change the name of the Chicago Sports Update to like Chicago? We got hockey.
Yeah, seriously.
Everybody else is like a freaking joke.
You're absolutely right, and
I mean, I shouldn't be so hard on the Bears, because
that's where we're going to go.
I do have to say one thing about the Bears. I continue to be impressed by Josh McCown.
Yes,
continue to be. But with the Bulls and the injury thing, it's so like I said earlier, if you're like what's the, I don't get the, why isn't there urgency? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why isn't there urgency from them to push their investment and their product? And you know what? There was a lot of stuff going on today about how much money they've given him over the course of that time, because it's all guaranteed money versus, they have insurance policies on players, and how much the insurance picks up. The bottom line is you're paying the guy out of your pocket, and yeah, insurance is covering some of that, but if you know anything about insurance, what happens when you make a claim on your insurance? What do they do?
They gladly drag it out, and they will kick and scream.
They kick and scream, and not only that, after they pay it out, your rates go and get raised. Your rates get raised at some time. You think a rate raise for getting whatever, I don't even know what they call the insurance. I'm considering it liability, maybe. But whatever insurance policy they have to get to cover professional athletes, if they have to pay out like $20-30 million on it, do you think they're going to be like, oh, hey, nice doing business with you. We'll keep it up. We'll keep the same deal we got going. No, they're an insurance company. They're going to raise their rates. That's what insurance companies do, whether it's, you know, I'm not doing an advertisement, whether it's home, life, whatever kind of insurance. When you get in an accident, your rates go up. When you get like a lot of tickets and shit, your rates go up. Do you think that doesn't happen when your players keep on injuring themselves and you have to pay out? It's just like there's the money there. There's the money they're paying for him. There's the money that they're trying that's spent put on the product. You know what the other and I know that they can't do anything about this and it's stupid or whatever, but it's the money they spent on putting Derrick Rose on their tickets. It goes so far and beyond. And I know you can't like say, oh well, they could get rid of that because they can't plan on that. But like, I'm not talking about him getting hurt. Injuries happen. There's nothing you can do about it. He could have just came back and retore the left knee. It doesn't matter.
Oh gosh,
it could have happened.
Yeah.
He could have been trying to avoid a knee injury and fell down and broke his wrist, separated his shoulder, broke his collarbone, whatever. Any sort of. But do you stop playing because of the injuries? Like, and then not. I just don't get the. I don't get the. He's going to be out a year. Now, granted, it could be he's going to be out a year, and if he's miraculously better than they think he's going to be at a certain point and is able to come back, then they've set it up where it's not like last year. Because if you compare the injury time, and I didn't really think about this till this point talking about it, maybe they're saying he's going to be out a year so that if he is ready to come back before that year's time, they don't look the way they did first time around, because they came out with information saying that he was ready to come back. And
the message wasn't there.
He was, I mean, he was cleared to play. So, does that information come out again? A, and B, did they spin it in such a way that it benefits them ultimately as an organization? And if it doesn't turn out good, I mean, then you're talking about also where this is the team that couldn't sign a free agent after they had their championship run because they were a freaking joke. And when they'd have players to come, they didn't get what was going on. They thought that when Tracy McGrady came to town to check out free agency, and they brought Benny the Bull with, and they didn't. And I'm not saying that it's right that when you are trying to court free agents that you. God knows what some of these NBA teams do for these guys, but that's the game. That's what it is. If you're talking about, if you were talking about a situation where they were a team, if there was some kind of, Moneyball thing going on in basketball, and I get that running a team, A, this is the way we do stuff, versus B, we're going after this kind of player who produces these kind of numbers. That's one thing. But if you're like going for getting, signing big money free agents, you don't tout your freaking mascot out there. I mean, are the right people in place to make that kind of transition? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think in this entire wow. What do you got to say? How long has his career been? What, 6 years, 7 years?
Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
Now I gotta look this up. I mean, it seems so fresh and new, but
it has to be. It's got to be around that area.
Well, whatever the case, he's sorry, he's 2 years down now, or gonna be 2 years down from wherever he should have been at whatever point. But man,
I guess it does. The best part about that, I guess, if there is any sort of, I don't know, high point in this or something that we can glean from it, it's knowing that he doesn't have 2 seasons worth of minutes on his legs and on his feet. Which
that is true, but
they're already brittle.
Yeah, but I mean, then like I said earlier, like that doesn't matter. And like, yeah, that's true. He doesn't have that time on him, but he's got the years on him. And
Right.
you know, does he do? I like to think that he does the work to, you know, stay in condition.
Oh,
But
I'm sure he
but
does. That's not.
but you know, I don't know. It's still such a young man's game, even with not allowing 18-year-olds in for the game, into play. Who knows, man? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, you're right.
It's just crazy how things happen, and I I guess I kind of feel wrong a little bit. I do and I don't, but I'm like, dude, like you're is he injury prone? Is that what we say now? Like, is that the conversation? And it's a tough conversation because you can't, like, you're saying you're injury prone, but then you're saying, well, what are you gonna do? You at one point you say you're injury prone, and then the next sentence I say, injuries just happen. You can't do anything about it. So he was drafted.
Yeah.
He was drafted in the first round in 2008. So his first season would be 2008, 2009.
And we're in the 2013-14, so we're talking 6 years.
So this would be his sixth year.
Yeah. So I don't want to call him injury prone. I think if it was something regarding his feet or ankles, something like that we see with Kirk Heinrich is a perfect definition of injury prone.
Yeah.
I'd almost say that Joakim Noah is more injury prone than Derrick Rose at this point. Maybe it's just the level that they play at. Maybe it's the type of injuries. I mean, you could count Joakim Noah out for a month due to plantar fasciitis.
I think he gets the plantar fasciitis so much just because he's a big, active guy.
Yeah, you're probably right.
He moves around a lot, and he's large. Like, he's big. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Do you think it's easy moving all that weight around? Do you think like
he's an NBA player?
Like it's the bottom line of like he has the same parts as you. He's just like 5 feet bigger than you, not 5 feet. You know what I mean? But like
right,
16 inches taller than you or whatever, and outweighs you by like 40 pounds probably.
Right.
It's just like the conversation that goes out there. I guess I'm not saying he's injury prone, and when I hashtag things like glass, it's just I guess out of frustration because you're like, come on, dude, don't you want to don't you like that? Don't you want to play? Don't you like? And I know he wants to play. I know he's got drive. You can see it, but you're almost at a loss because you're like, why would you? But then, like I said, the whole if they said that because that's the way they want to handle the story as much as people,
it could be, but man, that's a real rough go. That's like saying, okay, the job of a safety is to just stand on the goal line and let no one get past you. It's like the point of no return. Mm-hmm. It's just there. It's kind of like, okay, this cannot happen. This is a fail-safe, foolproof plan that it has to work. And, well, we'll find out if that's the case. But switching gears to the NFL, specifically the Bears, it was rather rough, to put it lightly, just kind of falling into this pit of bad. And what we say by that is just a pure disaster when it comes to the rushing defense. I thought about it on my way home tonight, and just replaying some of the things in my head, it was kind of like these guys had no clue that a run was even possible. Like they ran past him. They didn't even look at him. They're like, oh, let's just focus on the quarterback and see what he's doing. Wait a minute, he doesn't have the ball, and we're in the backfield, and the running back's 30 yards downfield. Oh, that's not good.
You just don't.
I mean, and I guess no need to dwell on it. It was just really, really, it was really rough to see. I don't see a fix in this. I really would have liked to have gotten a response from Matt Bowen, because I asked him about the rushing defense of the Bears and how if this is a fundamentals thing, like these guys don't have the proper teaching, or they're not playing the system, or if they have no talent, is what it comes down to. If they just don't have the pure ability. And I'm almost thinking it's a combination of ability and, I don't know, recognition. I guess that's the best way to put it. And that it's a really sucky explanation. I get that, but you're kind of like, well, how are they even playing in the NFL? Because the other guys that they could have had, they're just no good either. They were no good to begin with either. There were no real highlights this past game for the defense. No takeaways, nothing. No big stops. Yeah. All you saw were 65-yard touchdown runs and Michael Bush, who can't fall forward for a yard.
Yeah, the defense is what it is now. But you know what? Yeah. There's still problems on the defense that were there even when the defense was like good.
Yes. No, you're right.
Their overall safety play has been really bad for a long time.
Oh yeah,
but they haven't had a solid set of safeties since Mike Brown, Tony Parrish.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it's like they always kind of seem to have maybe one decent one, and then the rest are garbage. Speaking of other safeties on the Bears squad, man, did you see how ticked off Devin Hester was with Craig Stelz?
Yes, I was really surprised that he showed that much emotion.
Yeah, it was crazy. Leave your helmet on, maybe, because it was obvious as all get out that he was ticked off. Which, at the same time, I guess you have all right to be, but in the end, you gotta think the guy first of all, he didn't commit a penalty. He got caught. That's what happened. He got caught. He didn't do anything that he really wasn't supposed to be doing. Yes, he was, but he got caught doing it. Stuff goes on all the time. There's always a penalty going on it. Even when they're not called. So, do you complete the run back if he doesn't commit the penalty? Whatever the case. But yeah, I was surprised to see that. But getting back to it, their safety play is just wow. It's and it's even more glaring now because I think they used to get away with it a lot when they were strong on their line and they were strong at the linebacker position. And they were strong at the corner position,
I think the best way, as I'm listening to you talk about it, and I'm just kind of letting this process out, and that's exactly where I went. Is that are these guys really that bad? Do they just not fit the system? Are they not talented, or has the defensive front from last year? Did it just mask a lot of these problems that were going on? And while I think it's a little bit of both, the defensive front that they had last year and the linebackers that they had last year with the ability to recognize a play, it didn't really it shut down the run game to a good extent, to a pretty fair extent. So all they ever had to worry about was the passing game and passing coverage, and it allowed them to kind of be Troy Polamalu's and just kind of guess and play the Tampa 2 system a little bit more Cavalier-like, to just be a little bit more loose with it, take some more chances when you have 9 guys ahead in front of you that are going to be, well, I should say 7 guys, take the corners out. You have 7 guys in front of you that are going to be able to recognize the run play and shut it down. You don't need to load the box with some undersized safeties who can't make a tackle, who can't identify what gap, where the run is going, or if it's a counter and it's going the opposite way. They're too aggressive. And while aggression's good in being able to kind of lean on instinct, these guys have no rushing instinct as far as it's concerned. And when you see such a depleted linebacking core and a front four is so depleted, so injured, so I don't know, just band-aided, I guess is the best way to put it. You can't afford to play back. You can't afford to just guess and guess off of instinct and play off of instinct like that. You need to be a student of the game and go where you're supposed to go. And the Tampa 2 system, if everyone goes to where they're supposed to be, you're not going to have a problem. The defense will succeed. That's what we've seen time and time again. That's probably what rode the past couple of years, maybe the past 3-4 years of Urlacher's career, were based off of just knowing the Tampa 2 system.
I guess you got to know where you got to be, but the other problem is, do they have the athletic prowess to get there?
Yeah, I don't know if they do it. I don't know if they have the football IQ to do that.
I mean, it's just it's funny how for so many years, the Bears have just been play defense, run the ball, and then this year they're we're going for it on the offense, for real going for it, and the defense just goes. It's so horrible. It's so Bears.
It is. It really is. And I'm not saying, and I really hope that they don't end up losing out due to just such a disaster rush defense, just having such a horrid defense in general due to injuries and lack of, football talent, football IQ, whatever you really want to call it. But it's rough. It's a really rough watch. I mean, I looked at our pool, or our Pick'em League. A good amount of people picked the Bears because, the Rams quarterback isn't that good. Their rushing game, they're down to their third and fourth string running backs, and you've kind of figured, hey, this should be a game that they should be able to have in hand, or they should be able to win. I certainly thought so. I would still, going back, rewind 48 hours, I would still think that the Bears should be able to win. Not because I think Josh McCown's great, but because he's adequate enough for them to win.
Impressive. They had 424 yards of total net yards, right? The penalties again. 10 penalties for 84 yards. All right? They totally dominated the time. They were 36 minutes with the time of possession, which is a 13-minute advantage, right? But here's the other problem: 3 turnovers, right? 3 turnovers. Now, but this is the craziest thing about this Bears box score I'm looking at right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different receivers. Okay. So when was the last time the Bears had 7 different receivers getting the ball? And I'm not talking about 7 different receivers, most of which have 1 reception. Michael Bush had 1 reception. It was the lowest are 1 and 2, who is Fiametta had 2. Everybody else is above 4. Okay, so they're getting the ball around. This offense is there, right? And then the defense is,
just let them go. And I heard a little bit of some of the post game stuff, or excuse me, the press conference stuff day after with with Trustman, some just audio clips here and there and whatnot. I'm not ready to say. It's really tough because he has a locker room to control. He has a team to lead, and I shouldn't say locker room to control. I should say a team to lead, and needs to say the right things publicly at this point to keep that message and maintain that message and not be counteractive against the team. But it's really difficult to say that it was while it's deflating to go 99 yards or whatever, 79 yards seemingly. If they started at their 20, which they probably didn't, 89 yards, be it probably with a kickoff holding or something. So starting basically from way deep in your own zone to march all the way downfield to the 1 yard line and not score the touchdown. Yes, it's frustrating. I don't mind gambling when the situation's right, but when you need points to put up on the board, I would say it guaranteed lock type points.
Yeah,
meaning a field goal.
It's
take it.
the whole Trestman situation is kind of awkward. I think I really like him. I like his style of play. I like his offense. I think it works. It's obviously spreading the ball around. They're obviously scoring points, and I mean the bottom line too is if you score 21, I kind of think like you should win, but unless your defense gives up 42. But I like I said, I like that end of it. You know what the thing I don't like is, and it's funny because coming from Lovey, who wouldn't say anything, like I feel like he says like too much. Like I feel it's like a situation where it's like what was it a couple games ago where he came out and said I shouldn't have done this, I should have done this, and like I don't know, I kind of like
we praised him for his
honesty.
I
mean it's nice, but it's at the same time I guess maybe it's just me getting used to it. But at what point does the honesty thing like wear off and it's like, well, this keeps on happening, dude, you know what I mean? Like I mean I'm not comparing Mark Trestman in any way, but it's like a dude who cheats on his wife, and he cheats on her and he gets caught, and then he keeps on cheating on her and he keeps on getting caught, and he keeps on telling her never gonna not gonna do it again.
You think you're bad?
He's not telling us
bad at.
He's not telling us he's not going to do these things again, but it's going to get to a point where there's going to be obvious mistakes made in coaching, or not mistakes, but like just questionable things that come up. And if every time he's like, "Well, I should have done this instead," when when's that gonna? When does
it connect, and when does the behavior start to be modified?
So I don't know. But at the same time, I mean, they're also it's. I always go back to it's still a competitive league where there's a shit ton of parity, and I'm looking at their upcoming schedule, and honestly, it's not that. They could possibly win some of these games. I mean, they go to Minnesota, which I know the Dome's a tough place to play, but what do you think of the Vikings? Yeah, I don't.
Do you have faith in Ponder? I mean, do you really trust?
I mean, and you don't know. But then at the same time, the Bears' defense is what the Bears' defense has been. Then they play the Cowboys, another beatable team. But again, their defense could break down. Then they finish up with the Browns, Eagles, and Packers. The Eagles game is scary because I have a feeling they can get absolutely lit up by the Eagles.
75 to nothing.
But I mean, but it's still this league is winnable game wise, week to week game wise. I'm not saying it's winnable for the Bears that they're going to win the Super Bowl. But if you are interested in getting to the playoffs and go with the philosophy of, well, all you got to do is get in, which, I agree with. And we've seen it time and time again where what we think to be mediocre or struggling teams during the regular season start to hit the stride with 2-3 games left in the season. And all of a sudden, they weren't in the playoff picture, but then they get in the playoffs, and then boom, next thing we know, everything's working and they're playing really well. So that can happen too. So, I mean, I guess the bottom line is like, cliche, I guess, but you just gotta keep on like trying to win, and you just gotta keep on winning. Because they caught a break too, because Detroit loses, who they're currently tied with, who owns the tiebreaker over them. Detroit loses, so they don't really lose any ground there. They have the same record. And then the other two teams in the division, well, they decide to tie, which pretty much essentially they both just screwed themselves because
Oh yeah.
and of course today like the whole conversation was like, Packers. I saw a lot of Packers fans talking about how, well, they didn't lose like the Bears did. They tied with the worst team. They didn't
win.
lose to the worst team. They tied with them. But you understand that you have a tie, and I don't know, probably like I don't even know the percentage of it. What would be the percentage of those? There 32 teams, so 30 out of 32 don't have a tie. Two of you guys do. Do you think it's good for you guys to have a tie? It's not, because it's one less time that you could have won. So it really hurts you, but it totally I mean, they're not. They're tied for first place in their division with 5 games left, some of which these games are winnable. Um, who knows? Briggs is going to come back at some point. That's going to make some kind of difference. Getting some kind of consistent play from a single position on the defense would be like the most spectacular thing in the world. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's all we can do. That's all we can do. It's just
exactly. That's all, we can't do anything else because we have nothing. We have nothing good sports wise to watch otherwise.
Yeah, otherwise the Blackhawks, who are up 2-0 against Edmonton. So, yeah, that whole Western Conference hockey thing is, man, it's good.
That's a lot of fun. I was looking at, and no disrespect to the Blackhawks. I'm sorry I said that we have nothing to look forward to, because we have plenty to look forward to. I apologize. It's just frustrating when we talk about having plenty to look forward to. All that plenty is equal to one team. But by the way, the Tony Snell's reign of terror has begun for the Bulls as he started tonight. The rookie starting now, a rookie starting for Coach Thibodeau is wow. How did that happen? But whatever. As of right now, he has 4 points, and he was trending on Twitter, but he is no longer trending on Twitter. But from the way people were talking about him on Twitter, it didn't seem like the Tony Snell experiment was really effective. So I think blow it up. God, that's horrible. You search for Tony Snell, the first 2 things that come up are Tony Snell and Tony Snell face. But baseball season.
Yeah, let that kind of
mark.
Let that. Yeah, question exactly.
You
hot stove. That's fine.
Next. Wait till and I think Brandon said something about it too, and I responded like does every team in Chicago minus the Blackhawks adopt the "wait till next year" slogan?
Certainly, seemingly, it's.
They could essentially, couldn't they pool their advertising money and just get buy billboards and do signs together?
That wouldn't be bad. That would be pretty good.
And then they get the money that they save by pooling their money together. They could spend on whatever. They could, if they want to spend on free agency, or maybe the Bulls could put that money towards buying the first pick if they don't already earn it by themselves. But like I said, we're not going to sell them short. They'll end up in the playoffs. They'll be like a 7th or 8th seed in the playoffs.
Get bounced off.
They'll get bounced, but they'll fight hard because they're not. They're not going to give up. We didn't see the team give up last year. Granted, I think they had a little bit more talent last year. Wow, it was really hard to let Nate Robinson go, huh? Which I understand. You're not gonna. You can't go and like think like, oh, I should never let him go. Yeah, they had to. Where was he gonna play? Where were they gonna play him if Derrick Rose is healthy the whole year?
Did you hear that they were advertising Nate Robinson's Rockets?
Really? What?
Yes. Yeah. I can't. It was on the. It was on the Score. They were Well, it was airtime bought by.
Yeah.
It was advertising bought by WGN, but WGN Sports had the nerve to advertise it as Nate Robinson's Rockets. I'm kind of like, really? That's kind of what you're going off of. That's who you're highlighting.
That's weird. I don't know, but whatever the case, you can't go back and say that. Do they need to make a deal? Do they think? Tony Snell just hit his first NBA career 3-pointer.
Give him the ball. Take that ball out.
But I mean, what do they do? Where do they go from there? Is the question. Do they blow it up? Do they realize that said window has closed? And if they want to have a window, they need to add somebody else because you don't know what you got. I mean, I think that's the way you have to look at it as a team. You don't know what you have. You don't know. I mean, you never know. It's an injury.
Right.
You never know. And 5 minutes from now, I'm knocking on wood that this doesn't happen. 5 minutes from now, everybody on the floor at the same time could go down with a torn ACL. And then the 5 players that come in and replace them could all go down with broken ankles or sprained ankles. It can
brutal.
Anything can happen. So you can't. But what do they do? Do they add parts to what they got now? Do they make a trade? Because I've heard little rumblings about the Bulls trading for Evan Turner. I don't. Yeah. I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do. There's a big part of me that says tank it, but then at the same time, I don't know about. I don't buy rebuilding an NBA. I think
it's easy to turn it around.
I think rebuilding an NBA is an oxymoron. You can definitely spend your money more wisely. I don't think that there's like a ton of rebuilding in basketball as far as compared to, how you rebuild a football team or how you rebuild a farm system. It's just not
right.
It's not there. So it's interesting. I'll be interested to see where this goes. Who knows?
Yeah, I hear you. All right, well, that will do it for us. Any special mentions, thank yous, or shout-outs?
No, thank you for listening. If you do, and no, I don't really have anything. Thanks for listening. Like I said, enjoy what's going on in Chicago sports.
Question mark, maybe, kind of.
Question mark inflection. Yeah, that's the way I meant it. It is what are you gonna do? I don't know. There's nothing you can do. I mean,
that's all you can say.
Put together a deal for LeBron James.
Yeah, put together an unbelievable package for him. So, yeah, we'll see. Maybe, kind of, probably not. But either way. Let's see. I'd like to thank, you, Mike, and Brandon for going on this journey for 100 episodes. We started a couple years ago. Really happy to where it's gone and where we're at now and where we hope to go in the future. So thank you for the time that you have taken out of your life and able to do this. And certainly, Brandon, of course, same to you. Thank you for doing so. I know we hope to sync up more. And thanks again for coming on last week, Brandon. And thank you for everything, time and dedication that you have put to this. It does mean a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It does it.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And I saw you tweet that earlier, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm glad we got there, and I couldn't ask for any better co-host. We still got to get Cliff on here if he can make the time. I'd love to get his insights on this. So, Cliff is one of our resident basketball fans, and that's his sport. So yes, and with that, thank you very much for listening, everybody. It's been a great 100. We hope to continue. So thanks for listening, everybody, and we will talk to you next week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Chicago Sports Update here on Intrepid Audio Productions. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching IAP Podcasts, all one word. We make it easy to listen to us at home or on the go because you can subscribe to us via iTunes or on your browser at Spreaker.com. Listen to us on the go with the Stitcher Radio app, available for all smartphones. Want to interact with the team directly? Leave any questions, comments, or feedback you may have at our Facebook page. You can also like our page to know about special events, shows topics, and listen directly on our page to new and past episodes. Feel free to email us anytime at iappodcast@gmail.com. IAP Podcasts, pioneering the best in independent podcasting.